So Danielle Smith seems to be doing the most reasonable work when it comes to combating these tariffs. As many of the politicians right now in Canada are either freaking out or they're just in their own incompetent mind just wanting to duke it out with Donald Trump, Danielle Smith is actually looking at the original proposal, which so many people have forgotten. They just memory hold the fact that this was an option that we didn't need to have this tariff war if it wasn't for the fact that our border security is so laxing, which we showed on our Wednesday stream, and we could resolve all of this if we actually paid attention more to border security. So Danielle Smith tweeted this out saying, "I'm joined on Newsmax today to speak directly to Americans and assure them Canada will continue to secure the border and combat the deadly fentanyl trade." Again, the original proposal, what Donald Trump put in place, was an ultimatum. He wasn't just putting on tariffs on Canada just for the shits and giggles about it. He was doing it as an ultimatum, saying, "Hey, Canada, fix your border, or we're going to put tariffs on." And since the Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, the Finance Minister, all these different premiers have done nothing in the sort to deal with this or negotiate or have any resonance to it, Danielle Smith has to be the lone survivor to actually be the adult in the room in this conversation. So here's what she said on Newsmax.
One Canadian politician is here for that type of idea. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith. She says Canada needs to appoint their own border czar so they can work closer with U.S. border czar Tom Homan and shut down these cartels. Let's welcome in now the Premier of Alberta, Canada, Danielle Smith. It's great to have you with us.
Thanks, John. Nice to see you. Sorry for your tragedy in the U.S.
Now, I know people are going to take this out of context and assume that, oh, she's on right-wing media. She's on Newsmax. They're full of lies and they distort information. As opposed to, MSNBC, who's lied about Russiagate for how many years, or CNN that's done the same thing, and notorious other lies regarding COVID or Trump or January 6th or even the Freedom Convoy, the CBC News. Regardless of that, this is actually pretty smart because the fact that she's been invited to not only Newsmax, but Fox News. Well, what does Donald Trump usually watch? Fox News. So having the premier on these kind of right-wing platforms, regardless of how you feel about them, has very much influence on the president himself. And this is why for example, people like Jimmy Dore that were offered a spot on Fox News compared to any other network, speaks directly to the president. So there's more of an influence to be on this right-wing platform or any other platform that, that people don't agree with than compared to CNN or MSNBC. And they're not inviting her on to any of those networks, but they'll bring Doug Ford on. Doug Ford, who says, "I'm going to cut off the electricity in the northern states." Arrgh. But let's hear what she has to say, because she's actually the adult in this conversation.
We've all been watching it, and it's just horrific. And our thoughts and prayers are with the families of the victims.
We thank you for that. Obviously, those affected by this personally appreciate those sentiments, and there's so many questions that remain. I know air traffic control is an important issue for every country, and one of the things we heard from Donald Trump and Sean Duffy today is the need to return to a merit-based hiring practice when it comes to this stuff. There have been attempts to insert DEI. Again, we don't know what the cause of this is, but it's one thing that's already coming out of this. How do you feel about that, the need to return to merit-based hiring practices?
Well, whether it's in this ministry or in others, I can tell you we've already taken similar steps in Canada. I have my department looking at DEI policies throughout our administration, and then particularly in our universities, in order to make sure that we're hiring people in all of our positions on the basis of merit. I think that the woke hiring practices went a little bit too far everywhere, and we've been among the first provinces to start looking at how we might be able to rein that in.
Yeah, and again, we see that in private business as well here in this country. There's a big, kind of reassessment of what's going on there. And I should mention, we had this interview scheduled for quite a while. I was very excited to speak to you about everything that you're doing in Canada and the kind of resurgence of conservatism north of the border here. Let's talk about these tariffs and border security a little closer. Donald Trump at the World Economic Forum last week in Davos, this is what he said in relation to Canada.
We don't need their lumber because we have our own forests, et cetera, et cetera. We don't need their oil and gas. We have more than anybody.
So, we know Donald Trump likes to stake out these positions early on in the negotiations. What's your reaction to that?
Well, far be it for me to correct the president, but let me tell you what we do have in Alberta, and you can be the judge about whether we should continue to be a solid trading partner and supplier to the U.S. We have 1 trillion barrels of oil in place, of which 200 billion barrels are recoverable, and we also have about 500 trillion cubic feet of gas. We surpassed Saudi Arabia in 2014 as the largest exporter to the United States, most of that coming from my province of Alberta. And we'd like to sell more. There was a concept that the president first signed on to years ago of Keystone XL, which would have taken our particular grade of heavy oil and connected it with the heavy oil refineries in Texas. And we'd like to restart that conversation.
Oh, yeah.
We don't feel that we're in competition with the U.S. You've got a different grade, and your refineries need our particular grade of heavy oil.
Well, I know that when a lot of conservatives talk...
So she makes the point that Alberta has heavy crude oil. The Texas refineries need that heavy crude oil. So she's making the case, and this is why she went personally down to Mar-a-Lago to speak directly to Trump before inauguration. She partaked in inauguration. She went down there to negotiate and make the case and argument to say, hey, your refineries in Texas need this grade of oil. We have the crude oil. We have natural gases. We had this Keystone pipeline in the works that was going to transfer this oil down to Texas. We had proposals made. Obviously, this makes a lot of sense. So maybe we can negotiate something and we don't have to resort to a tariff war. That was what her proposal was. And because of her being down there, Donald Trump at least extended her period from the first day of his presidency to February 1st, which is tomorrow. That at least gave us a bit of a window, but the rest of Canada did not see that. The rest of Canada, with their utter lunacy, their utter stupidity, don't see this as helpful. They don't see, they attack Danielle Smith. Oh, you're only interested in Alberta's economy. You're only doing this for yourself. Considering the fact that Canada's large export and trading partner is with the United States, their largest export is with oil and gas from the province of Alberta, it'd be stupid not to consider this. Not to consider going down there and making a case and argument to help sustain the largest trading partner in North America. But yet, you have so many other politicians, from Justin Trudeau to Doug Ford to Chrystia Freeland to Melanie Joly, all these people, they're just so absurd. They're so, it's not even incompetent. It's just an absolute joke that they're trying to stick it to Donald Trump. Oh, you want to put tariffs on us? Then we're going to put tariffs on you. That's right. You won't get playing cards. You won't get our famous whiskey. We're going to take your bourbon and booze out of LCBO stores. Ha! Like some sort of stupid cartoonish villain. And who is it going to hurt? Us. Meaning regular people. Us working class people that didn't want this to occur. That wanted people like Danielle Smith to go down there and negotiate, and want more politicians to follow that act. To actually be the adult. To actually be a leader. To actually fight for Canada. But none of these people do.
Hear Donald Trump talk about Canada becoming the 51st state. I think those conservatives are only excited about Alberta becoming part of the United States. And I kid, of course, because you guys have great ski resorts, obviously, and the whole cowboy culture that we identify with here in this country. But, you are serious. And conservatives in Canada are also serious about working with the U.S., unlike Justin Trudeau and his party when it comes to shutting down these cartels on the border?
Well, it's very true. I mean, we were one of the first to announce our own border security plan. Keep in mind, in our jurisdiction, we have some policing functions and border functions that are federal, and then some policing functions that are provincial. And at the provincial level, we deployed special teams to be able to go to the border, sheriffs who are going to be armed with border dogs so that they can do the sniffer test to see if there's any drugs. They're going to be trained in commercial vehicle inspection. We've got 10 drones that are all-weather drones, and the federal government has added a Black Hawk helicopter, which has started patrolling our border as of yesterday. There were news stories about it. We did take a news team down yesterday so that they could see what we're deploying, and we're making those images available. But we are serious. You'll probably see in the news as well. We finally prosecuted three individuals behind a fentanyl super lab, and they got 18 years in jail. And so we're taking this seriously. We've got a couple of other major super labs that our law enforcement in Alberta have busted, and I hope to see the same results. We don't want our people killed by these bad guys either. And so we've been taking action on this for a number of years now. We want to work with our American partners to show how serious we are.
So, again, Danielle Smith seems to be the only person in the room that's looking at the original ultimatum, the original proposal that Donald Trump said to Canada, you need to fix your border security because your border security, the fact that you're bringing in all these illegal migrants with questionable backgrounds, and I'm not saying that's all cases of migrants, again, taking from someone who is very pro-immigrant, people that have criminal convictions coming into Canada are now going to the United States. Just like we showed on Wednesday there with the northern border, people going down Roxham Road and other county roads that just appear into the United States. They just take tour buses. There's no real security. And that's affecting the United States. And Donald Trump doesn't want that on his record. So he's made that decision to Canada to say, hey, fix your border crisis, secure it, deal with the cartels, deal with the fentanyl, or we're going to put tariffs on. But people don't see that first half. They just see tariffs on Canada. Oh my God, how crazy a maniac this guy is. Well, Danielle Smith was able to go down to Mar-a-Lago and negotiate, at least give us an extension. But Justin Trudeau, Jagmeet Singh, all these people, they are just so insane that they don't see the original proposal. They don't see any of this. They don't see why Donald Trump put the tariffs on in the first place. Not because he's a bully and just wants to mix things up, but because there's a border crisis. There's a migrant crisis. Much like the rest of Canada has been screaming at its federal government to do for many years. And now we're seeing Danielle Smith, in Alberta at least, willing to look at their border protection and deal something with it. They're at least willing to put security on the table, which is not only beneficial for Trump's sake, but also beneficial for our sake. Because you don't want these criminal gangs occupying your cities and towns. We don't need more homicides. We don't need more murders and predators and all these people running amok, causing chaos on the streets. So at least she's willing to look into it. She understands why Donald Trump did what he did. And being a leader of Alberta, going down to Mar-a-Lago and making a case for it was the actual smart and adult way to deal with this problem. Not to make retaliatory tariffs and say, we're going to take your playing cards.
To us about the Liberal Party in Ottawa and Justin Trudeau, and he had this kind of fake resignation. The Liberal Party is still in charge with kind of a puppet government going on. But there's an opportunity right now, a crucial time when we have a new administration in the United States and a willingness to cooperate and work with the leadership in Canada. It doesn't seem though like the Liberal Party is up to the task.
I hope they are. They did announce a $1.3 billion strategy. And what I've seen is even though that because of the parliament not functioning right now, they're having to deploy existing resources. So they've managed to find that. And that's actually good. I know that they've had a conversation with Howard Lutnick. He seems to be encouraged by what he's seeing. But what I've seen from the U.S. president is he says, don't tell me what you're going to do. Show me what you're going to do. So that's why we've gone out with great effort to demonstrate that we're already there. We're going to be monitoring a 2-kilometer border in Alberta, which borders Montana, to make sure that our part of the country is secure. I know my neighbor in Saskatchewan's doing the same. My neighbor in Manitoba, Ontario, and Quebec are also deploying their own forces as well. It is really an all-hands-on-deck approach. This is why we need a border czar, similar to what you have with Tom Homan, is that because we have turmoil, we've got a prime minister who's only going to be there 38 days, another one who might be elected for the same amount of period, then a general election. We have some instability in who the person is to actually speak with. And
well,
so
it's amazing. It's amazing how the Liberal Party finds the resources to do this when that election is looming, and they're facing some serious challenges. Real quickly, and this is a separate topic, but it's something I know you care about, and I know our audience cares about as well. As we look at Canada to see the changes there, we see the increase of doctor-assisted suicide in Canada. It now accounts for what I saw, I think, in a BBC report, 1 out of every 20 deaths, and we see that trend increasing. This, I think, to a lot of people is frightening.
And it should be frightening. I mean, one of the things that the federal government is allowing is the potential for people to seek MAID because of mental illness. We've heard of people seeking MAID because they're poor and can't get on government support. It's outrageous. The intention behind it was always that if death was reasonably foreseeable and imminent from a condition you weren't going to recover from, like late-stage cancer or something along those lines, that a person would have the choice. But it's broadened out to a point where it's completely unreasonable. And we've resisted moving down that path. We're creating a separate oversight body to make sure that doctors have the oversight if they do make that determination, so that families can intervene in the event that somebody's just seeking it because they're having a bad patch in life. We don't want somebody feeling so desperate that they think that's the only answer. We want people to recover if they can and get their lives back. So we take a bit of a different approach on that.
Yeah, not a good look for any government when people are choosing to die as opposed to living, and it's very concerning. And I know you're.
So obviously that was a very long take. There was a lot of different segments there. They kind of went into a bit of the helicopter DI, and now the, assist blank, the self-deletion. But this seems to be someone who actually has their head on straight and knows that Donald Trump is a businessman. And much like the business world, you respond by having a strong case and argument to defend your country or your town or your community, or in this case, the province of Alberta, and its oil and its resources to a big guy like Donald Trump. And Trump responds better to that. He even states he respects strong people. He's more tolerable to strong people than weak people. And right now, with Doug Ford and Justin Trudeau and all these other people, they are the weak people. They're the ones that are going apeshit crazy and going, well, if Trump's going to put tariffs on this, then we're going to put tariffs back. Instead of, hey, let's come together. Let's make a strong argument to the fact that Canada and the United States are the biggest trading partners in North America. And let's come to some solution. Let's come together and negotiate. We'll go down to D.C., talk to Trump directly, and talk man-to-man, mano-a-mano, and negotiate. Because that's Mr. Art of the Deal down there. He's used to negotiating. And considering Danielle Smith is also used to negotiating because she's had to defend her province from the Justin Trudeau insanity, the tyranny going against Alberta. So she's used to negotiating. You're sending her down to Mr. Art of the Deal to negotiate. Seems like a win-win. But there's so many people that are against this. So many people are against it. And we're going to get into that later on, that there are people attacking Danielle Smith, attacking this woman for going down to speak to Trump. Somehow she's selling off Canada, and she's disrespecting the nation. She doesn't stand for the majority of the people here. Even though she's going down to defend our natural resources and our trade partnership, which is very important, because if we don't have this and you just continue on with these tariffs, keep piling it on, then we don't have the trade relation. We don't have any relation with the United States, and it just becomes an absolute farce. to the point that, yeah, America will take over Canada and become the 51st nation, which some people laugh at and go, that's great. America, take over commie Canada. Is that really what we want? Do we want to lose our national heritage and identity that we built up for so many years? Do we really want to lose the John A. MacDonald and so many credible voices from Wayne Gretzky to Terry Fox to Don Cherry to all these great Canadians, Wilfrid Laurier to Robert Borden, all these people? You want to give that all up away and give away your health care, give away your everything that Canada stands for to the United States? Because we used to mock those people. And now the United States is actually kind of doing better than us. So instead of folding and caving and acting like complete idiots, why are we not making a case to make us stronger? It just seems the most rational of all this. But yet you still have idiots that look at this and think that she's some sort of maniac. And I don't know what to say to that. I mean, you have someone at least willing to defend Canada, defend the oil, defend the natural resources that will sell off to other countries that could actually help benefit the overall outcome. She's making a case to stand for Canada instead of just making ridiculous remarks that don't defend anything.